There's a lot of buzz around certain topics in the built environment at the moment. Ecosystems, ESG, sustainability, productivity, health and safety, and of course data. What to do with data and how. In today's event, you'll be hearing some views and examples around these topics. Welcome to No Time to Bullshit. My name is Marja McIntosh and I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Vastuu Group, and I will be your host today. We have 3 parts in the event: the why, what, and how. You're most welcome to watch all of them now, but we will send you a link to the recording so you can watch some parts later if you so wish. Before we get into business, a few more practicalities. There is a chat box somewhere on your screen. Please send us comments and questions. We will be taking some of the questions in here in the studio and ask our presenters, so use the chat box for asking questions, sending us comments. There will also be a feedback form on the stream site, so please give us feedback on how we're doing and what did you think of the event. And finally, if you have problems with internet and you're cut out, just come back, refresh your browser, and that should help. Okay, now I think it's time to start the show, and we'll do that by watching a short video.
Hello, my name is Lars Albäck. I'm the CEO of Vastuu Group. Welcome to Helsinki, Finland. I love this city. It's clean, it's very safe, very social, and it's well managed. I think this is what ESG stands for. My opinion, this is the capital of ESG. So, what is also really cool about this city is that if I would accidentally drop my wallet on the ground, I have a better chance of getting it back than in any capital in the world. Hi guys. Hey. Hi. Hey. But together with these guys, Johannes, Jarkko and Antti, we have created services that enable 100,000 businesses in Finland and the Nordics to work together in a trusted way.
We built world's first platform of trust for data to be shared between ecosystems in a trusted way.
Companies are learning how to put their data to use. There is a data value chain. With a little coaching, we can make it work. We've developed My Data Services, the global standard for personal data. We're giving control back to the people around the cities worldwide. We will be making more announcements about new trust services later this year together with City of Helsinki.
Together, we are on a quest to bring trust services to as many people as possible in Finland, in the Nordics, and the planet.
Life is better when we trust each other. That's why we exist. Join us on our journey.
So there we saw an introduction to Vastuu Group's philosophy and purpose. And now we have Lars Albäck from Vastuu Group here in the studio telling us more about today's theme. Welcome, Lasse.
Thank you, Marja. And ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome also on my behalf. We have a really exciting program lined up this morning. My job is to introduce the team shortly, to make a short announcement and to outline the program for the rest of the morning. So, let's get to it. You might wonder, our theme for today, No Time to Bullshit, is maybe not the most typical for a Finnish event. Our point is that we really see that if we want to change things, and we need to do things differently. So together with our customers and a few partners, we have put together some concrete examples for you this morning to show that we are really doing stuff today. So if you talk about no time to bullshit, The no bullshit is important, but also no time is very important. So, we really see the change happening today. There are many positive signs, and we really see there is a big movement going on. We see companies working together, getting out of the silos, working horizontally, working in ecosystems. We equally see that there's a real big concern, and the concern is really actually putting action into place on how to do stuff about the sustainability and the climate change problem. We still have a lot of work to do, of course, but we definitely see stuff and things moving in the right direction. So, our take on ESG, as Marja mentioned before, is that it's something that should be a normal thing to do. Something that should be available to every organization, to everybody, and basically there is a real concern. Today we are concentrating on the E, but as you know, we are also in Vastuu Group have done a lot of work on S and G. So one of the key enablers of ESG is trust. So we think that trust has to be automatic, and problem is that non-trust solutions takes away the flow and make things slow for us. So one of the interesting things that we could change is that what if with the trust scheme we could move away from having data into the silos on the left side. We could actually start to build applications around the data and basically get the cross-flowing data from between organizations and working for us, not the other way around. Now basically the problem is that we are on the left-hand side stuck with the data in the applications, and we cannot solve the big challenges that we face today. So this is what we live in Vastuu Group. We want to make the data flow. We want to create better living conditions for people, companies, and Mother Earth. We believe that we can do this. We can have fun doing it. We can grow our companies, and we can all help each other when going about doing these important things. So, the main topic of my presentation today is that we are really happy to announce the ESG Data Hub. We will be creating a data-driven and automated CO2 calculation and reporting. We will also be creating a common data standards for the whole built environment ecosystem. Why we can announce this today? Well, Business Finland has funded our project. We were able to get one of the first funds from the RRF funds being let out in Finland. We are also happy to say that 20 key players from the industry has joined us. So we are able to see that we can get the whole ecosystem, cities, real estate owners, construction companies, maintenance companies and federations, also authorities to join our important project. What is also interesting is that we have been able to get key segment stakeholders from energy, logistics and waste management to join this service. So together with these companies, we will look at how data can flow between the different industry sectors to make positive impact on the climate. In order to tackle the big problems that we have around this topic, today we are seeing a lot of unknown factors. We don't know how to use the data. We don't know how to use or make reports around CO2 that is equal and can be measured between each other. So in order to tackle those problems, we are forming a steering committee where we take the stakeholders joining the project, but also the authorities, university experts to tackle these problems. Last but not least, we believe there is a real big potential of actually creating an export industry around sustainability. This is not about Vastuu Group. This is actually about how we can create an ecosystem around this topic and actually create something great that also is good for our dear Finland. So, if you are interested in this very important theme of today, please join us in this project. So, to wrap up my part, there is, like Maria said, the why, the what, and the how, and we will go through them in this order. But there is one change due to COVID. Antti Harjunpää and Mika Huhtamäki, our Deputy CEO of Vastuu Group, will take care of the how. And now it's my pleasure to wish Antti Harjunpää, the CEO of Platform of Trust, as the next speaker.
What was hard is now easy. Launch of ecosystem tools, methods and technologies. I've been waiting this day for 3 years. Roughly 3 years ago, after working a long time with digital, I understood that the productivity of Finland hasn't improved that much. Then we started to search for new ways of working, new methods, new tools to fix the problem. And we might have found something, which you are going to see today. This is a picture of Norwegian ecosystem. Drawings, miniatures from industrial design. They are here to explain what the ecosystem really is. It's a complex method. There are wicked problems in the world, like why the problem of refugees has not been solved. It's because the problem is ecosystemic by nature. It doesn't apply with traditional problem-solving methods. Maybe not wicked, but still collective action problems in built environment. Normally, the building is created within 1 year. It's been used less than 100 years, and after 100 years, it's normally demolished. Low productivity, data disappearing between phases, high CO2 footprint, manual work, and data in silos are some of the problems which exists in built environment. There are gaps in data value chain. The data gaps exist especially between phases in built environment. After building to using to demolishing the constructions. Why the data gap exists? It's because normally always IT solutions have been built for one company in mind. For instance, a company building and a company maintaining. That's why the data gaps exists in the viewpoint of built environment life cycle. What if the data gap problem was solved? There are two separate topics which need to be catered, which are actually discussed a lot in the market today. Data and ecosystems. And very often after the discussion, there is only 3 dots. Coffee is a huge ecosystem. Farmers grow the beans, brands make different labels of coffee, shipping companies ship the coffee bags, milk is for lattes, and there are all kind of ingredients going for the coffee. Even the designers make money for making cups, and in the end, baristas make a lot of money for making the coffee. So this is an ecosystem. My name is Antti Harjunpää. I'm the CEO of the Platform of Trust. These are coffee beans. They smell good. There are a lot of coffee beans in the world. What do I know about the coffee beans? Quality, where they are from, I don't really know, and you don't really know. The coffee beans becomes a product. When we know where you can buy it, you know the conditions, you know the brand, you know where you can buy it. And when I can consume it, it becomes a service.
And the same applies to data as well. Just like coffee beans, there's a lot of data in the world.
and you don't know about it. You don't know the quality. You don't know the rights to use it. You don't know where it actually come from. But with our help, you can productize it, and then it becomes a bag of beans, which is a product. And these data products can be easily consumed inside your own ecosystem. And everyone knows the rights, everyone knows the quality, everyone knows where it actually came from. And eventually, all these data products can be converted into services, just like your cup of coffee.
We have done the prep work. We call it flat pack approach. With our tools, you can do it yourself with help of us. Customers who have done more have asked tooling to run their own ecosystem. We release those shortly, showing our journey.
What if the data gaps were filled using the same data products, but different rules living with ecosystem's life cycle? Rules for planning, rules for constructing, rules for maintaining, and rules for demolishing. When we talk about the ecosystems, we need to talk about the people. There's a really good book writing how the tribes are formed. So there's different tribe for cooking, and there's a larger tribe for hunting. There are different rules for cooking and different rules for hunting as well. When we look at it from the viewpoint of companies, there are companies for business, there are ecosystems for scalable business, and there are rules for businesses and different rules for ecosystems. That's one of the key backgrounds of our products. Today, we are launching an ecosystem tools, methodologies, and technologies, which we call Nordic Flat Pack Data Product Approach. We are launching it with you because you are the owner of us, because we are owned by the market, which gives us a unique opportunity in solving problems which are your problems, but which are one of the kind which can't be solved alone. And that's why they need to be solved in the middle of the market. We are launching interoperability data product machine or technology to harmonize the data which is coming from different sources as a basis for our data products. We are launching data product tools for businesses to describe what kind of data products needs to be there to solve the actual business problems. And we are launching built environment data product catalog, which helps you to get going with lower development costs. We are launching ecosystem ERP for closed ecosystems for safely managing data rights, B2B contracts, and organization access to your ecosystem. And finally, we are launching marketplace where you can either distribute or sell data products which you choose for companies or individuals who you have not worked before. Also, we are launching methods, wind trains to make it happen, to solve collective action problems which are shared to the market, and phenomena schools to get you started. It takes 2 to tango, but 7 for running ecosystem. That's why we have created the method of trains for that. It departs to solve a collective action problem with bunch of companies aboard, and when it arrives, the problem has been solved for the first time, and the benefits for those companies start to arrive. We created phenomena schools with different actual detailed topics. For instance, about the ESG, why there is a big difference between scope 1 and 2 to scope 3 CO2 sources in the world. In a nutshell, trains to make ecosystems happen, phenomena schools to get you going, data product tools to solve business problems, data product interoperability machine for technologies and harmonizing data, growing built environment data product catalog, ecosystem ERP for closed ecosystem controlled, and marketplace for open ecosystems for data products to be distributed. It's 2022, so why is your data not interoperable? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antti, for explaining us about ecosystems and data products. Next, we will hear from one big company dedicated to people flow, how they have used data to tackle some sustainability issues. We have joining us online Anna Tiri from KONE. Welcome, Anna Tiri.
Good morning and happy to be part of this event. As we're doing this online, if somebody could just confirm that everything's okay and the voice is hearable and the picture is okay. Good. Hey, let's get started. So my name is Anna Tiri. I'm heading the maintenance business in KONE Finland and Baltics. So in basis, we're keeping the people moving with elevators, escalators, and automatic doors. When discussing this presentation, we agreed that I will try to keep my presentation rather practical and explaining how we in KONE are trying to do our part in maintaining the buildings and at the same time saving the planet by reducing the emissions in our business. But let's get started and move on to the next slide, please. It is clear that sustainability is one of the biggest challenges of our time. I've been in this industry for quite many years, and I have to say that sustainability has been for a long time coming. But the rapid movement that we're seeing in the marketplace at the moment is something that we haven't seen before. It used to be digitalization we talked about, and I think the same goes for sustainability now. If you don't have the solutions, if you don't know how to use data and how to be sustainable, you run a real risk of not being a valid player in the market anymore. In KONE, we try to do our best of using data and using digital solutions to drive sustainability in our field operations. And I'll be sharing some of the practical examples of how we do that. But before that, let's take a look at the bigger picture with the next slide, please. As many companies, we've made our climate pledge, and we're taking this very seriously. We've set ourselves science-based targets to have carbon neutral operations by year 2030. I know many companies are making pledges at the moment around sustainability, but if you start counting the years, year 2030 is actually just around the corner. As I'm running the maintenance business in our company, I'm very interested in our own operations. Our target is to reduce the emissions from our own operation by 50% in absolute emissions. And I want to highlight that we use the science-based targets to measure this target. On products and value chain, we also set ourselves very ambitious target to reduce our emissions by 40%. But I think you're more interested than of the percentages of the ways that we're aiming to do this. So let's move on to the practical part of the presentation. With the next slide, please. Thank you. So we decided to choose sustainability in everyday operations and in every little thing that we do. Practical things that we're working on is definitely low emission fleet. If we think of maintenance operations, roughly 80% of our emissions come from the cars and the kilometers that we drive by keeping the elevators and escalators and doors moving. It is clear that the better we are at optimizing our own operations, we also reduce the amount of kilometers we drive and the emissions from our fleet. And there are some very practical examples of how we do this. We also know that a lot of the emissions in buildings are created when buildings are built. And therefore, we worked hard at KONE to reduce the emissions of the products that we make. And we've been very successful on reducing the energy consumption of elevators with the newest makes and models of elevators. We're also very much looking into circularity of materials to make sure that we even increase the circularity of the materials of elevators and escalators. But in all of these actions, it is not only the actions we do, but our ability to learn from the actions and ability to prove that they are actually bringing down the emissions. And here, data becomes critical. It is clear and evident that to create this kind of do, learn, do cycle, we need to have the data as the backbone and the systems for our clients to understand whether we are actually bringing down the emissions of the buildings that we maintain. So let's dive deeper into the wonderful world of maintaining elevators and escalators with the next slide, please. So how to create a low emission fleet and operations in maintenance. In Finland alone, we have roughly over 300 maintenance technicians keeping the elevators running every day. In practice, as you know, in Finland, the dimensions are quite large and the kilometers that we drive can be quite significant, depending a bit on the city we work in. So let's look at the ways that we've already worked many years to reduce the emissions. With the next slide, please. So the foundation of being efficient and energy efficient as well is to optimize our operations. Every day, our technicians perform tens of activities and visit multiple buildings in maintaining the equipment. It is clear that routing and task optimization play a massive role in being efficient and energy efficient. If you think that there are tens of thousands of elevators in Finland and we keep them running, it's clear that we need to use big data to understand how each and individual technician can perform their daily tasks in a most efficient way. But not only routing and task optimization, but also being efficient on site. And let's look at that example on the next slide, please. When maintaining elevators, it's important that you have the right spare parts at hand. We've used many years on optimizing the spare part availability of our technicians. In fact, the technician's van is a spare part warehouse, a mini warehouse, so to say. And we optimize the content of each individual technician's warehouse by using data on a component levels of the equipment that we maintain. In practice, it means that we analyze the equipment on that specific technician's maintenance route, and we identify the parts that are most likely to be in need of replacement. And we optimize the warehouse of that individual technician's van to ensure that there is over 80% spare part availability of the most used spare parts. Now, in practice, this means that you don't need to drive back and forth on getting the spare parts. You can keep the equipment running more reliably and also significantly reduce the emissions of the operations. Not only talking about elevator maintenance, I think this is a common problem in building maintenance overall. We need to be more lean, we need to be more agile, and we need to use data to optimize our operations. But let's move to another exciting example with the next slide, please. IoT used to be and still is something that everybody talks about in the industry. In practice, in KONE, we are increasingly remotely monitoring the equipment that we maintain. The data from this equipment flows into KONE Data Cloud, and basically we analyze all the data from the sensors and directly from the equipment themselves to understand whether the symptoms and the parameters that we get from the equipment are sending signals that the elevator might break down. This helps us to prevent possible breakdowns even before they occur and smartly conduct the maintenance task as part of a regular maintenance visit to proactively keep the equipment running. Not only this, but our technicians and handheld devices can get access to this data. And when being on site, they can see whether the parameters are indicating, for example, the need to replace a certain component. Also, if there is a malfunction, they get the background data and hence can repair the equipment more quickly. So how does this link to sustainability? That's a good question, and I will show you the data on the next slide, please. So basically, what we're talking about is improved intelligence, improved safety, and better transparency. And we've been able to bring down the unexpected call-outs of the equipment by 28% just within the time span of 2 years. If we take an even longer time span of 4 years, the call-outs with the equipment where we've had those under remote monitoring has almost halved. Now, if we come back to the fact that most of the emissions come from driving, it is clear that every trip that we can avoid is bringing down the emissions of fleet operations. So here, IoT and data really play a massive role. Now, this is something that we've done since 2017, so I can confidently say that we have a fair bit of experience on this field. But something exciting that we've started doing this year is understanding proactively the repairs that we need to do. And here's an example on the next slide. As long as I've worked in this industry, our customers have asked us to help them proactively understand the repair needs of the equipment we maintain. Now, of course, our skilled technicians have always prompted about the repair needs, but now we're bringing the IoT and data to back us up to provide a long-term plan to understand the needed repairs. Each component in a technical equipment has a lifespan. It also has a certain kind of a cycle of repair needs, most typically the repair need increasing after a certain amount of time. We have the data on a component level of the equipment that we maintain. We combine this with the data we get from remote monitoring and the possible symptoms we understand from the equipment. We use smart analytics to combine these two, together with our local technicians' evaluation of the equipment condition. Now, all this is great for keeping the equipment up and running and also to provide our customers with a proactive view of the repairs needed. But it's a massive improvement in keeping the equipment sustainable and understanding how we can proactively plan the repairs to conduct them at the same time as the maintenance is conducted and to optimize the lifespan of individual components and even the whole elevator replacement. Now, this is something, the impact of which we don't even fully see yet, but we're closely working with our customers to understand how this will help them to optimize the emissions during the lifespan of the buildings as well. Now, let me sum up the presentation that we've had with the next slide, please. So addressing the needs of the changing urban landscape is something that we're closely working on, keeping with our mission of keeping the people flowing and safely and conveniently. We've set ourselves ambitious targets to reduce the greenhouse emissions from our own operations by 50% by the year 2030 with science-based targets. We have the means to get there. We know how to optimize our fleet. We help our technicians to work smart. We optimize the spare part to avoid unnecessary driving. But equally important than to understand the ways to get to this target is to understand that how can we prove that the things we do actually do bring down the emissions. And this is why this event today is such interesting topic, and how we are committed to working closely with our customers around data, visibility to the impact of the actions, and our ability to jointly create even better actions with our customers to bring down the emissions of the buildings we maintain. We work in a philosophy of do, learn, do more. So we want to keep our actions very practical and action-oriented. And I'm excited about the opportunity to work closely with some of the biggest building owners in the country to really prove that the actions that we're doing are bringing impact. And all of this to work, we need the data, we need the platforms, and we need the trust. As said earlier. But with this, I would like to end my part of the presentation and thank you for your interest and attention to the topic.
Thank you, Anna. It was really interesting to hear how you at KONE have utilized data, and for good cause as well. Before we let you go, we have a few questions here coming from the studio. First, what have been the biggest challenges on your data journey so far?
That's a great question. Data journey is a wide topic, but I have to say that the biggest enabler, if I turn it into a positive sense, is to have a data cloud and smart analytics on working on the big amount of data. So just having the data is not enough. You need also the analytics to identify patterns in data and then create them actionable. I think the biggest challenge is then to make this work in field operations so that each technician learns to work in a new way, utilize data when they do the maintenance in practical terms, and also understand the importance of doing this for our customers. So we've been working on it in Finland since year 2017. It's been quite a journey, but I'm proud to say that we are increasingly there, and our technicians actually nowadays are very happy about the availability of data to back up their own operations.
Thank you. And then another one. Your customers get off a KONE elevator and enter an office. Do you see KONE helping to solve access questions for businesses so that people movement is even more streamlined?
A very good question. Yes, we're increasingly not only bringing people from floor 1 to floor 10, but also enabling access and accessibility in the whole building. An exciting opportunity to do this is that we actually do have an expert consultancy service to analyze the flow of people in the whole building, even around buildings. And this is also very important for sustainability, especially when you're building a new building. If you do smart choices, the building can be much more adaptable. You can adapt to changing needs of people flow and with small upgrade costs. All of this bringing down also the emissions of, for example, potential modernizations of the building. So very much so, accessibility and also the convenience of people for whom it's not so easy to move around is very important topic for us.
Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us today. Now I have Lasse and Antti here in the studio with me, and it's time to wrap up the first part of the morning. So what are your thoughts now after hearing Anna's presentation?
I actually liked hearing the learning bit, because it's very different if you take the kind of traditional business and keep on doing the same way and try to turn it to something new. And the difference is actually how to lead it. It is really that you don't know what's in there for you. So basically you just need to draw a vision and start working towards that vision and learn it during the way. And the learning should be not only for kind of intuition of the people, but kind of backed up with the data, because the intuition is always just one person's opinion.
Lasse.
Yeah, I liked Anna's talk about the need for repair, like predictive model, that they are able to collect so much data that they could actually create this kind of a predictive model and sort of know in advance when stuff in the elevator systems or another flow equipment needs repair. And also I liked a lot the talk about how KONE is doing concrete stuff, like really measuring, really following, not just talking about it, but actually doing it, continuously improving things, and sort of also having the trust element that Anna mentioned in her address. So basically, how can you create a system where the customers and everybody sort of learns to trust each other? And that's about flow. If you think about KONE is all about flow, and you know, flow is all about trust, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just quickly see if we have any questions for you guys, or is it time to move to the second part?
One thing I would like to mention, it's actually about this stuff between the ecosystem and the ordinary businesses in a way. And I had the opportunity to help to do technology politics from Finland. I was just the one to help there. And there were a bunch of ideas how to make it happen. And I remember there were platform mentioned like 29 times. And in a way, it's easy to say, but difficult to do. So I would like to kind of challenge the audience to think about what are the business problems what you can't solve alone, and what are the problems where you actually your partners and maybe even the whole business, maybe another line of business to help you in solving that problem. And because that's really the key of improving the sustainable productivity in Finland.
Yeah, I think I wanted to pick up what Antti said, because basically in traditional or in the past, we have always looked at one company, one problem, and sort of not these challenges that we are facing today. You can't solve them like one company, one problem, one application sort of style. So you have to think differently. You have to think about how can we combine data. Because, for instance, now this E in ESG, in order to solve this problem with the E, to make a more environmental positive impact, we really need different industry segments to work with each other. So not only we have the problem that many companies have to work with each other in ecosystems to make this happen, but we also have the problem that many industry segments have to work. Because if you think about the built environment, and also what Anna said, there's a lot of things connected to the urban life. There is energy, there is, like Anna said, logistics. So how many kilometers do you actually have to drive to serve the elevators? And there's like waste management, just to mention a few. So the problem is that if we want to solve the new problems of the world, we just can't go with the old sort of formulas. We have to invent new formulas to go about it. And I think this is the big challenge for us today. It doesn't matter if it's sustainability or productivity or COVID for that matter. We just have to learn how to sort of trust each other to come up with new solutions to new problems.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with looking for one company viewpoint. The global competition is just so harsh that the competition from the skills competition for price, that it might be actually quite difficult to compete in that environment.
Yeah.
So it might be that, for instance, acquiring best skills in the world around the one problem, maybe with 10 companies, that's more feasible than just these best skills in the world working for one company.
Yeah. I think if you look at that topic, attracting the best skills, it has struck me in the last years that actually what are the best skills in the world looking for? I think they are looking for one thing in particular. They are looking to make an impact. They are looking to make something, sort of a legacy for generations to come. So I think in sustainability and in the rest, we should not be so competition oriented. We should be more impact oriented. But it's just my point of view.
Yeah.
We have few questions here. Lasse.
Yes.
You're clearly an optimist about change.
Yes.
You're known for that. What do you think are the biggest barriers you see in companies? What do they have to get over?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if I blame my upbringing from Ostrobothnia, being optimist and never know how to quit. But I think the biggest barriers are in ourselves. So we have learned a lot of stuff, how to go about things. And the big problem now is we want to move forward. We actually have to de-learn a lot of things. We have to think in new ways. And this is really hard because we tend to stick with what we are comfortable to. So the problem, if we really want to move forward and really, sort of solve different, really challenging, complex problems, we have to learn how to also de-learn what we have basically thought were the good stuff, how to go about things. And this is a problem because it takes a lot of courage. So staying in what we already know that works and have worked in the past, basically is the safe way. If we want to go, we need courage. So I think that courage and also having the trust to try new stuff. Even if things might not go perfectly, you still have to have the courage to try it. And I think we should support each other more. I think the problem is that it's not a zero-sum game. So let's say one like the business of sustainability. It's not that if we compete, the other one will win and the other one will lose. Everybody of us, all the companies stand to win. There's a bigger cake to divide when it comes to sustainability. So I think we should learn to be courageable and think in new ways.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that will definitely need courage is going international. What are your plans with that?
Yes, it's a very good question because I think I've been in 5 companies in the past, not only this Vastuu group, where we have tried to go international, and I think only one company of those really succeeded. So the problem for a Finnish company to go abroad and really make it big is quite challenging. It's really hard. But I think we need to stay true to our cause. We need to do the stuff that we believe in, not be so concerned about the stuff, hurdles that will come in our way, more keep the focus on why we are doing this and looking for what impact we can do together with others. I think one of the best philosophies that I have is that it's not about us, actually. We are just one company, part of a big sort of ecosystem, trying to do something good. I think that helps that you don't look inwards, but you look outwards. So I really believe that data, trust, and ecosystems will be the ingredients which will make us succeed in the future. With a little bit of courage. Thank you.
And I would like to mention patience. Anna spoke about this data journey, started 2017.
Yeah.
Actually, maintenance used to be my old profession, and we thought at the data like 20 years ago. So it was a 20-year wait for that business area to really start utilizing the data. So I would think that the patience in change is vital as well.
Yeah, that's true. But it's good to focus on the journey.
There was actually a question for you, Antti, here as well. You have said that we are not traditional consultants. What happens when someone needs traditional consulting?
That's a good question. Well, basically what we do, we actually we help our customers. And but we do it with the help of traditional consultancy companies. Because our idea is create these kind of trains where we help multiple companies at the same time. Of course, we help single companies as well. But to scale that, you actually need skills from the consultancies who are focused on that area. And that they are focused on kind of, because consulting is selling time and brains. And we are not selling only time and brains. We are selling the methods and technologies. So that's why we actually then call some of the best consultants we have identified in the market. So we try to select the best for the specific area and then recommend it for you.
Great. So how are you feeling now?
Feeling good. Yes.
Good.
It's I think it's so great to have this kind of an event where we can have customers and partners talking about what they are doing for real. So this was the theme of today. No time to bullshit. We just look at what we are doing today and not dream about what we should do in the future. So I'm happy.
Antti?
I'm happy as well. I mean, you talk about the change, right? And I did tomorrow's presentation with the wrong slides. I think it's a sudden change. And I'm feeling quite all right, because if we are talking about the change, so we should be able to bear it ourselves.
Yeah. I have to say the same thing. When I was presenting, I was stumbling and looking at what are the slides, what should I say? But then realized afterwards that, hey, it doesn't matter. You know, even if everything doesn't go as planned, the most important thing that we have the courage to do it. So if the slides are wrong, if you stumble, so what? We just have to keep on and be patient and believe in what we are doing. So, thank you.
And one thing is guaranteed, and that is change, I think, in this world today. We just have to deal with it.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're ready to move to the second part of the day. So it will be the what part, and we will have Pekka Aalto from Platform of Trust telling us more about the second part of the day. Welcome, Pekka.
No niin, tervetuloa tänään. Welcome to the most interesting part of this event, I guess, because this is here we can see the customer presentations, cases that are real life, and what we are actually talking about now. It's all about the construction industry. It's all about cases that will give a benefit for the customers. And interesting thing is that we are doing the new ways of using the data and the, let's say, very common challenges. I am about to talk about the construction companies, and I see that maybe the biggest challenge in construction industry is the profitability. The company profitabilities are quite low, comparing what are their turnovers, and it's all about that construction business is project business. So where this profitability, low profitability challenge comes, it comes from the project risks and realization of the project risks. That is the key topic there. And the cause of the problem is most often project delays, and project delays comes from the different kind of parts, because the construction industry is very networked industry. It's maybe biggest supply chain what any industry has, because if you think about the common situation that you have a company of 100 people, there is working 1,000 people. and 100 own, 1,000 some sort of subcontractors or other service providers. So there are a lot of counterparties. And it means that when we are talking about the project delays, it is all about that how you communicate with the different counterparties. What are the how the material deliveries, are they in the right place in the right time? And also, do you have the right material? Because now we are talking about also the planning versus reality. So it's quite typical that you are planning very fast that you get the case forward. But after that, you make some changes in plans, and then you start to purchase the materials and you start the project. But the biggest challenge is that you are not changing, updating the plans when reality hits from the real construction site. And what is the challenge with this working with the counterparties? I think that one of the biggest challenges is that there is not really trust between the different counterparties. They are not telling everything. The contractors are not telling everything that when they are really providing their services, or material companies, they are maybe delaying, but they are waiting that, okay, let's see if we can make that bit luck that we are on time. And then when it comes to the working in the working site, the safety is the very crucial thing. You have to have a very, very safe working place. You have to go work where is no incidents happening. There are many different kind of challenges, but how we see in Platform of Trust that one solution for that is that you use data as a based on decision making. And using data and making decision based on data, there are a few rules for that. And basically the main rule is that first of all you have to have data. That is of course important. Nowadays you have a lot of data, huge amount of data. And then when you have data, then you have to trust it. And when you have a trustful data, then you need the tools and competence to analyze it. And after that you will get in the benefit phase. So you have to understand what you are actually telling. Raw data as such is worthless, but when you make it sort of intelligence, then it's make some money and benefits. One ground rule in data business is that pulls it in is pulls it out. That you have to remember. It's all about what we are today talking. That when you have wrong data, then you cannot make decision there. Okay, in Platform of Trust, what we are doing here? Here we have been doing a lot of research and multiple hundreds or thousands of different kind of customer discussions. Out of that, we have collected hot topics that are very important in this industry. We are basically working in the built environment. Today, in this track, we are talking about the construction. In construction, maybe the hottest topic is industrial construction. It means that you will take from the other industries the ideas and ways of working, like shipbuilding or car industry. You take this industrial type of doing business. We will have very nice examples there. Other part of the industrial construction is using data that is there already and combine that with the other data, and then you will get some very, very interesting information. And all the time we have to remember that construction sites are actually quite dangerous places, so we have to take care of the safety in the construction site. We will have quite interesting cases coming up today. First case in this track is it's all about the flow. So we are talking about the YIT's flow method, that is basically industrial construction method, and there is also a company called TAKT.ing. So this is a more or less TAKT method of the building houses. There will be more about that. Then interesting company Nylund that is making this kind of lighting systems. They have found out a new way of using data that is actually very low value, that actually don't have any value at all. But suddenly, thinking in different way, you can find the value for that data. And in the end, we have this one of the most important topics. So we are talking about the safety in the work, and there is a panel discussion, and that is also very important. Although we are having that talk in Finnish, so let's have that bit later. All right. How I believe is that challenges, all the challenges in construction industry can be solved with the trust. And next presentation will be YIT and TAKT.ing together. There will be Lauri Tomunen from YIT and TAKT.ing Janosch Dlouhy, and they are presenting how they will work together in doing this flow method and making very industrial construction. Please welcome Lauri and Janosch.
Good day. My name is Lauri Tomunen. I'm a development manager in YIT. And today we will speak about how to scale information with the TAKT planning method together with Janosch Dlouhy. But first, I will recap what we have done in past years. So we started with TAKT planning around four years ago, and we started using it as a scheduling method. The feedback from the construction side was quite excellent. We reduced the content of the schedule to just one pager. People started to understand what is actually going to happen on construction side, so we made it very simple. After that, we started connecting all the information from the construction side to the schedule itself and made all the information accessible and transparent to all participants in construction sites. And this transparency helped our experts on the sites to actually focus more on the process rather than the product that they are doing. And this reduced the time they use for handling data on construction site. And they started naturally to discuss how they can improve the system in the next projects. So we can see a path of continuously improving system over there. At this stage, we started discussing can we use these practices to define all the data management and all the information management on construction industry. So we benchmarked the manufacturing industry and started discussing how can we bring this similar system to the construction. I think the issue at the moment is that we are trying to use the digital tools, for example, BIM, with a lot of data, and the creation of data is too easy. But we don't have those processes that the manufacturing industry has. We are using a project-specific approach and try to manage all that information. And because we do this manually, the end result is that we actually use our working time to manage the data itself. And this is not scalable way. This is this end result of this is that we have fewer resources controlling the production, and this means that quality will decrease. And if we increase the resources that are on construction side, this means that price will increase. But what we are doing with tax planning is that we are generating the production line that the manufacturing industry has already invented. And this is the key that we need to move forward. On manufacturing industry, all the information is connected to the production line, and the production line generates the flow and the pull for all of the information needed on the factory. And with the tax planning and standardized tax planning, we can do the same on construction industry, even though we have different types of end products. And our path is first defining the tax processes, then we can define the production system around it, and then we can start discussing about the technologies that we have today in the data management. From this idea, we generated via this flow concept and started discussing how to reach the same level that manufacturing industry has achieved already. So we started with the production processes, the standard way of doing construction. And this meant the work packages of tax planning. So with this, we can bring the simplistic approach to all of our construction projects, what to do, when to do, and what brings value to the end customer of the project. Next, we started defining operating system for those work packages. What designs we need, what materials we need, when do we need the materials, when should we call the materials to the construction site. So we standardized and defined standard operating model for all of those work packages. And this is to create the transparency and scale the whole system to all of our construction sites. At this point, we understood that it's really important to implement fit-for-purpose tools to scale all this data because it's too much for any human to handle. In the first two steps, we have basically defined all the data that we need for building a building. So after that, we are now discovering ways how to move the data from different systems so that humans don't have to manage the data anymore. This means that, for example, when I define something in the schedule, the same information will be available for the designer or the supply chain. And essentially what this does, it removes all the data work and administrative work on construction sites, and we have more time to control the production process and more time to innovate what should we do better in the next project. What we are approaching after that is that how can we connect the design or the product to the production. And this is what we will talk today. The point in here is to connect all the information in the design to work packages so that we can really improve the quality, we can improve the installability of all of the items that the designer defines. And the last step in the flow concept is that when we have all this data and we have this innovative production system, we can start using this data and the tools and technologies of today to help and support the decision making on construction site. So in more detail, what we have done so far, we have used standard work packages, standard sequences to define our schedules on the construction sites. And I think the first step is to get people abroad and start running this same system on all of the construction sites. After we did that, we started discussing that we can also use the system to guide all the logistic processes for the construction process. And this means that we defined what materials we need per work package, when do we need it, and we started running the supply chain with the same plan that the construction site is using. This means that if there is an error on the production plan, all of the partners in the supply chain know what's happening and how the delay on construction site affects them and their production. From this information, we started tracking automatically and reporting how are we doing on construction site. And this basically means that have we done and have we prepared all the things that we need to actually do each work package? Do we have the materials needed? Can the suppliers provide those materials? And we presented all that information in one simplistic view to the production site so that they can really start discussing how they should prioritize their own work. The next thing that we are going to do is connecting the product to the production. And we call this design for TAKT. We use the tools of today, such as BIM, to actually have this digital connection of production and design. And also I would like to show how we think that also the other end benefits from this connection. So we are starting to define how to do all the material documentation automatically based on design for TAKT. So the basic idea is that we use these different systems to control different flows of the project. We have the material flow coming from the TAKT logistics, which needs to be connected to the suppliers. And these interfaces between different systems are what we have to solve to make the data move from different stakeholders of the project. Then we have the production plan and control system, which is actually the brains of this whole system. It's guiding the other systems. What should they do at each given time? Then for logistics, we need, of course, the materials. So we need to figure out how to connect in a scalable manner the design to our production plan and the logistics plan. And to do that so that it also is connected to the suppliers, we need to define all the materials we need from the supplier catalogs actually in the design. And planning these different pathways for data is the key in here to be able to connect all the stakeholders to this one production system. And because we want to keep it simple, we have to understand that people are actually not working in this data world. They are just grabbing the data from this ecosystem and defining what they have to do next. Next, I will show a short video about how to connect the design information with the production information. So firstly, when we define TAKT plan, we select the standard sequence from our library. This is really easy and quite fast, I would say. Then we take the design data and we start connecting the product information with the production information. So all the basic information and data from IFCs is there. It's behind the elements. And first we have to define where the elements are. So we have to connect those to the TAKT areas of production. Then we start connecting the work packages with the product information. And this is also a fast way to do it. A nice extra that we get is automated 4D simulation of the project, because now we have connected the production plan and the design. And the last step is to define what materials we need based on the IFC data, based on the production data. And this is also something that we want to standardize in the future.
So you see that there is a huge a possibility in the field of connecting the data we already have. So we when you start with a normal construction site, you always have the problem that around 200,000 elements are flying around, and the construction processes, like all the activities you have to do on sites, is more than 100,000, 200,000, sometimes 500,000. You have to connect them manually. So you pay a lot of people and a lot of working hours to get these things connected manually. With this connection, you have a big issue, because this issue gives you that if everything changes, you're not scalable anymore. So you had a good plan, but the reality is changing. By shrinking that down to all work package, to a work package, you have the possibility to be flexible in every possible way. So by connecting elements, processes, and material, you get a real feedback from the site. So this is the target for the future, and I think we have a possible way to scale this for the future, because this is done by computers and not by people.
Okay, thank you, Lauri and Janosch. We have a few questions here for you. First one is for Lauri, and this is from the chat. What technology will be used to connect data flows?
I think when we are connecting different stakeholders, there is interesting technologies like blockchain technologies, where everybody can attach themselves to this same platform. But I think where we have to start is traditional connections between different softwares, which is done basically with the APIs.
Okay, and next one for you as well, Lauri. This new process seems like a big productivity gain, but we know there is some resistance. What barriers do you face in spreading the movement within the industry?
I think at the moment the main issue is that we have gotten used to project-based behavior, and we are organized around a project. But this way, if we want to scale it, we have to think more in a process industry way. So I think human behavior and the trust that the system works is the thing that we have to achieve first.
I think also that the way that we are gathering data in the future has to be connected, and it should be accessible from every side. So if we take effort for connecting things, then it makes it harder and harder to grab more data and use it and work it for the future. So the biggest problems we have there is that data is not connected and not right sorted in different chapters, areas, trades, all from prefab. Not that you have to start always sorting your data when you use it then.
Janosch, you have worked with BMW as well. How has that experience about logistics helped you get TAKT going in construction?
Well, this is a different department where I worked. So the major point is for me that this whole mentality of industrialization is totally in a company like automotive. So when you get to the attitude of automotive, they always try to scale the things for the future and think big in an industrial way. And this is, I think, one of the major things everyone comes out of automotive, that they have this attitude of scaling and do industrial platform.
Thank you so much, Lauri and Janosch, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear how Nylund, a company offering smart lighting systems, will hear how they have used data in order to improve, for example, people's work conditions. Welcome, Aku Bragge.
Hello. We believe that cooperation across the organizations and different systems are important for the future. We have heard today very interesting presentations about why. I'm convinced during our data journey with Platform of Trust that we can do a lot to help each others. So low value data can be valuable for sustainability. Nylund Group has been improving energy efficiency nearly 40 years. It all started with automated lighting because of saving energy. Quite quickly after that, safety and ease of use became a topic. After the light sources developed, extended lifetime became an important topic. Quite lately, well-being and human-centric lighting has been important for the lighting industry. We have estimated that with our solutions, we can save 40 million euros for electricity and reduce 37,000 tons CO2 emissions every year. This is of course quite small figures if considering how much we could optimize smart buildings when sharing the information other systems. We want to create better working environment and also help you to do the same. Lighting control system monitor continuously areas and report presence and absence from the working areas. This information can be valuable for other systems to optimize buildings. Previously, this information was less valuable, but it can be valuable today. Well, why lighting control systems are important to collect such information? Lighting is visible for everyone, and they can immediately realize if the data or if the lighting system is working. For automated lighting control system, it's very important that we react for the movement immediately when the people is detected. For other systems, we can allow smaller delays. So that's okay without any problems. With advanced lighting control system, we can reduce operation costs and we can improve working environment. We can also increase employee satisfaction, innovation and productivity. Why smart buildings? We can improve space usage. This information can be important for future. An example, when doing office renovations, we can realize which places are mostly used. Before COVID, based on our studies, 50% of the work desks were used regularly. Of course, it is not always about the savings. We can improve working conditions and productivity with well-designed smart lighting. Actually, 79% of millennials say their work environment is more important than the salary. This is something to think about for all of us. Lessons from our data journey. It has been very interesting time. We have learned that lighting control system generates valuable information. This enable cost-efficient way to utilize that same information on the other systems. Data should be processed for further use, and harmonized data is the key for any successful system integration. and we still have a lot to learn while doing our projects. Well, what to do with the data? Lighting control system generates data that can help you to improve understanding of space usage, optimize for cleaning example, optimize room booking, optimize heating and ventilation. With right data products, it is faster to take the data in use. Information is accurate. It is easier to integrate when using platform of trust, for instance. It will be future-proof for other solutions. We have a real-life office environment where we can get the advanced information about the space of use generated in the lighting system. We can show that information, distribution of the space usage, utilization rate of each area. We can also highlight most of the used areas and show busiest working hours. Distribution of the space use is quite interesting for a long run when considering the renovation, for instance. It's also important to remember that we can connect this information to other systems, example, system of your own. So this is what we do together for a better environment. And we are specialists for lighting control and data network solutions. Thank you for your interest. And in case there is a project you want to start with us, let's plan a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Aku, for an enlightening presentation, should I say. Few questions here. What kind of feedback have you received from your customers so far?
Most of the customers are interested of having this information, but so far it has been quite challenging to give it front. They don't have access for that information, and they are considering if they want to have it from one supplier or if they would like to have such a platform for future-proof solutions.
Okay. And how hard is it actually for you to connect data from other vendors' systems, whether lighting or something else?
At the moment, it is actually quite challenging. It's not always an easy thing to do, and lighting control systems, they have a more advanced information, not only the raw data, but they could collect and process the data further and make it more intelligent. So at the moment, it's quite challenging, but with the harmonized information and data, it should be easier for future.
Good to hear. You've been working with Platform of Trust for a couple of years now. What's the best about working with Platform of Trust?
It's very inspiring cooperation with them. And of course, we have learned a lot from the platforms and data business. We see big opportunities for our company for these new business models. And it's very interesting cooperation with them. And we have, of course, learned a lot and definitely will continue quite steep learning curve as doing our projects.
Thank you for joining us today, Aku. It was good to hear your presentation.
Thank you.
Next, it's time to move back to the stage where Pekka will be discussing some health and safety issues in the construction industry with Jari Korpisaari from Jatke and Kim Kaskiaro from the Confederation of Finnish Construction Industries. This discussion will be in Finnish, so if we have any audience there who are non-Finnish speakers, now it's good time to go and have coffee or read your emails. Welcome, Pekka, Jari, and Kim.
No niin, hyvä. Tervetuloa tähän keskusteluun. Ja me käydään keskustelua nyt sitten niin kuin työturvallisuudesta ja siihen liittyvistä asioista. Voitaisiin ottaa se esittely siitä, että mistä hankkeesta on kysymys Kalvolle mielellään ja katsotaan millaista hanketta me ollaan tässä nyt viime vuoden aikana tehty yhdessä RT:n kanssa. Eli tässä on ihan lyhyesti kuvattu tämä hanke ja sen idea on alkaa keräämään dataa koko toimialalta ja hyödyntää sitä dataa työturvallisuuden parantamiseen. Mutta sen pitemmittä puheitta mä aloitan tässä keskustelun ja lähdetään tästä ihan siitä, että Kimi voisit kertoa vähän, että mitäs mieltä sä oot tästä hankkeesta ja mikä sen merkitys on nyt toimialalla?
No, hankehan on ehdottoman tärkeä siinä mielessä, että tällä saadaan enemmän tietoa, enemmän määrämuotoista tietoa kasaan ja ennen kaikkea se tapahtuu digitaalisessa muodossa, jolloin se on helposti käsiteltävissä, lajiteltavissa ja analysoitavissa ja siitä palautteena yritykset saavat sitten oman toimintansa tueksi sitä yleistä tietoa ja kohdekohtaista tietoa, missä eniten sattuu ja mitä vaaran paikkoja, miten niitä voidaan välttää ja mitä kannattaa ottaa huomioon siinä jokapäiväisessä tekemisessä.
Kyllä, hyvä, kiitos. Ja Jari, sinulla ajatuksia myös Jatkeen näkökulmasta?
Kyllähän tämä on todella hyvä hanke ja siinä mielessä niin tärkeää, että tämä digitaalisuus, joka on ihan sitä jo tätä päivää, mutta on myös sitten sitä tulevaisuutta ja se oppi, joka me saadaan siitä että on jo vahinkoja sattunut, se on äärimmäisen tärkeää semmoista niin kuin riskienhallinnallista oppia meille kaikille rakennusalalla työskenteleville ja niitä vahinkoja ei tarvitse toistaa, kun tämä rakennusala on kuitenkin ikävä kyllä ollut toimiala, jossa nämä onnettomuudet toistuu vuosia toisensa jälkeen.
Joo, ja tämä on nyt, kun puhutaan digitalisoitumisesta, niin tämähän vaikuttaa tähän rakennusalan houkuttelevuuteen. Miten te näette nyt sitten, kun tulee uutta väkeä, nuorempaa väkeä toimialalle ja nämä digitaaliset työkalut, niin niiden merkitys tähän niin kuin uuden väen houkuttelemiseen tälle alalle. Ja jos tällä kertaa Jari aloittaa sitten.
Nämä on äärimmäisen tärkeitä. Puhelimet, jotka on tänä päivänä tietokoneita, niin ne on jokaisen kädessä ja jos emme pystytä yrityksemme tarjoamaan niitä mahdollisuuksia sen apuvälineen käyttämiseen, niin me ollaan hölmöjä. Ja sen takia meidän pitää niin kuin omat prosessit rakentaa niin, että kaikki nämä työapuvälineet, joita me käytämme omassa työssämme ja se henkilö, joka tulee töihin, niin tarvitsee, niin ne löytyy siitä puhelimesta. Eli se on ihan äärimmäisen tärkeä työkalu, ihan niin kuin se vasara sille timpurille edelleen.
Kyllä, ja Kimi sitten.
No, rakennusalan mainehan on vähän tämmöinen niin kuin vanhakantainen, mutta yllättävää kyllä, niin alalla on totuttu siihen, että kun tulee hyviä uusia työkaluja, ne otetaan aika nopeasti käyttöön. Ja se nyt ehkä ollaan tässä digitaalisen maailman kohdalla siinä mielessä, että meidän pitää pystyä paremmin sitä tiedon tulvaa jalostamaan niin, että se oikea tieto kohtaa sen oikean tarvitsijan kohtuullisen helposti.
Kyllä. Ja jos tähän mennään vielä nyt vähän keskustellaan tästä hankkeesta, niin miten te näette, että mitkä on niin semmoisia haasteita, mitkä tämän tyyppisiin hankkeisiin liittyy, jossa dataa kerätään toimialalta? Ihan vaikka
ehkä suurimpana haasteena pitäisin tämän, kun ajatellaan sitä jatkumoa, että näitä asioita on ensin tarkasteltu työmaakohtaisesti, siirryttiin yrityskohtaiseen tasoon ja nyt meidän pitäisi saada koko toimialaa koskevia päätöksiä tehtyä siten, että yritykset yhdessä, siis tahtotila on yrityksillä tehdä oppia toisiltaan, jakaa tietoa, mutta nyt vaan pitäisi saada se käytännössä luistamaan. Ja minusta tämä on erittäin hyvä hanke siinä mielessä, että se mahdollistaa jo sitten tämän käytäntöön viemisen.
Kyllä, ja mä voisin tähän oikeastaan sitten Jatkelta kysyä, kun mä oon ollut tässä hankkeessa mukana ja me huomattiin, että tämä oli niin kuin ehkä ensimmäinen hanke, jossa tämmöinen niin kuin datan käyttö, datan jakaminen yleiseen käyttöön tietojärjestelmien kautta ja siihen liittyvä sopimusten tekeminen oli semmoinen niin kuin uusi asia toimialalla. Niin tähän voisit varmaan Jari heittää jonkun ajatuksia ja kommentin.
No joo, kyllähän tämä aina tietenkin jonkun tietoa jaetaan, että miten yritys arvioi sen tiedon arvon ja se, että varmaan nämä sopimukset on siinä mielessä haasteellisia, että kun niin kuin tuossa Kim totesi, niin se on ollut yrityskohtaista. Ja tämä muutos sitten, että kun mennään tämmöiseen laajempaan tiedon hyväksikäyttöön, niin se on sen verran uutta, että ehkä niihin suhtaudutaan siinäkin mielessä vähän sillä tavalla, että uskaltaako tuollaisen paperin nimeä laittaa tyyppisesti. Että mihinkä tässä se on loppujen lopuksi vastuukysymystä ja muiden kannalta niin kuin, tulee sitouduttua. Ja se tiedonhallinta, tietohan on valtaa, ja mitä enemmän sitä tietoa on, niin kyllä se haasteita tietenkin asettaa. Mutta tämän tyyppinen hanke, joka nyt on käynnistynyt, niin tämähän on erinomainen siinä mielessä, että mä näen tämän myös semmoisena mahdollisuutena, esimerkiksi tämä regulaatio, jota rakennusalalla on hurjan paljon, niin ehkä senkin osalta niiden vastuiden ja muiden selventämiseen, kun meillä on analysoitua tietoa, esimerkiksi niistä tapaturmista, vahingoista, joita rakennusalalla sattuu, niin regulaatiokin voidaan kehittää ja kannustaa, tai sillä tavalla, että se ei ole aina rankaise väärää osapuolta niin sanotusti, mitä rakennusalalla helposti tapahtuu, niin me voitaisiin sitä kautta hakea sitten semmoista hyvää sitä tuotantoa tukevaa regulaatioa myös.
Mites Kimi näet nämä sopimusasiat tällä datankäyttöalueella? Se on aika mielenkiintoinen osa-alue.
Kyllä tässä ollaan niin sanotusti uuden äärellä ja se, että hienoa, että ennakkoluulottomasti yritykset ovat tähän lähteneet sitoutumaan mukaan ja sanoisin, että yksi olennainen juttu tässä on tämä VG Vastuugrupin rooli alan yhteisenä omistettuna toimijana siinä mielessä, että on tavallaan puolueeton taho, joka pystyy tätä luotettavasti viemään eteenpäin. Ja se on ehkä tämän onnistumisen avainedellytyksiä, koska ihan puhdas kaupallinen toiminta siinä on aina omat vivahteensa ja tässä tämä luottamuksen ja yhteisen tekemisen luottamisen asia on aika korkealla minusta.
Kyllä.
Ja
varmaan jos ottaa vielä yhden ennen viimeistä kysymystä, niin tämmöinen, nyt jos ajatellaan, niin tämä toimialahan on hyvin verkottautunut. Eli toimijoita on monia. En tiedä, onko 10-50 eri alihankkijaa yhdellä rakennustyömaalla, niin miten sä näet, Jari, tämän vaikutuksen niin kuin tähän työturvallisuusasiaan ja yleensä näihin digitaalisiin asioihin?
Kyllä, siis se on juuri näin, että kun siellä on kuitenkin vastuut sen regulaation kautta on kirjattu lakeihin ja jos emme tunnisteta itse kukin osapuoli siellä yhteisellä työpaikalla niitä vastuita, niin mehän ollaan ihan pihalla silloin siitä asiasta, ja sen takia yritykset on rakentanut, niin kuin meilläkin Jatkella on rakennettu hyvät sellaiset selkeät apuvälineet siihen oman työn ohelle, meille kun me toimitaan niin sanotusti päätoteuttajana, sitten aliurakka sopimuksiin on tietyt velvoitteet laitettu, ja se tiedon jakaminen, sehän on se haaste, että nyt kun tehdään yhteisiä juttuja, niin monihan me ollaan RT-jäsenyritys, mutta kaikki ei ole RT-jäsenyrityksiä. Ne on ehkä jossakin toisessa liitoissa ja myös tämmöinen tavallansa niille kaikille tahoille, jotka toimii, niin se tiedon välitys pitäisi saada myös varmistettua sitten kaikista. Esimerkiksi regulaation muutokset on tyypillinen sellainen asia, mikä aiheuttaa aina haasteen työmaalla, että jos joku laki muuttuu, niin se tiedotusvastuu on meillä ja se on haaste. Se on kieltämättä haaste, mutta se, että kyllä se aina sitten jollakin aikajänteellä sinne saadaan ajettua. Se on, tässä on niin kuin tämä työturvallisuuskin, kun siellä on kuitenkin työnantajalle kuuluvia vastuita ja on sille yhteisölle työpaikalle kuuluvia vastuita. Esimerkiksi näiden erottaminenhan on vaikeita. Joillekin yrityksille ihan tosi vaikeita. Ja tämmöinen ulkopuolinen auditointimenettely voisi olla yksi työkalu siinä, että se tieto saataisiin jaettua, kun me hyödynnettäisiin semmoista ulkopuolisen palveluntarjonnan auditointimenettelyä tai jotain vastaavaa, jossa me käydään niin kuin antamassa vähän sparrausapua niille yrityksille. Ne on PK-yrityksiä ja niillä on vähän muita, ne keskittyy siihen työn tekemiseen, ei siihen oman työnsä kehittämiseen välttämättä ihan niillä panoksilla, eikä niillä ole niin mahdollisuuksia, että meidän pitää antaa siihen vähän apua sitten omalta osaltamme.
Joo, ja tähän varmaan nyt sitten Kimin ja RT-näkökulma varmaan on tämmöinen haasteellinen, kun on isoja yrityksiä ja sitten on ihan pieniä yrityksiä, että siinä on mielenkiintoinen niin kuin alue toimia.
No toisaalta niin kyllä ne isotkin yritykset paljolti samojen ongelmien kanssa isommassa mittaluokassa, mutta samat lainalaisuudet pätee siellä, kun pienemmillä ei tietysti ole sitä resursseja niin paljon. Ja tässä tämä yhteisen tekemisen ja järjestön rooli on se, että pyritään helpottamaan kaikkien toimintaa ja auttamaan toimimaan oikein, koska useinkaan kyse ei ole siitä, että halutaan tehdä jollain tavalla väärin tai vahingollisesti, vaan ei välttämättä tiedetä, että mikä olisi oikea tapa.
Kyllä. No niin, minä asetan tästä viimeisen kysymyksen ja sen jälkeen katsotaan, onko chatista tullut kysymyksiä. Ja tämä on nyt semmoinen, että aloitetaan Jarista, että miten sä näet, voit vähän maalailla, että mihin se tulevaisuus menee. Työturvallisuuden osalta eilen juteltiin 3D-hyödyntämisestä, ehkä siitä voisit pikkasen avata.
Joo, kyllä tämä on, siis kyllähän tämä digitaalisuus tulee lisääntymään, se on päivänselvä asia. Ja niin kuin tuossa aiemmin jo puhuttiin siitä, nämä puhelimethan antaa sen mahdollisuuden hyödyntää sitä. Mutta lisäksi täytyy olla kyllä yrityksellä semmoiset selkeät niin kuin ne työvälineet tarjota niin kuin työnantajana näille työtehtäviä hoitaville. Esimerkiksi tämän raportoinnin osalta automaatio varmasti lisääntyy, tahtituotannot ja muut, jotka on tästä tämän päivän aikana mainittu, niin ne on josta me voidaan ottaa sitä oppia myös sen työturvallisuuden kehittämisessä. Eli semmoinen on-time-aikaisuus ja tällainen asia. Ja kyllä tässä niin kuin, nämä perehdytysasiat, jotka on menossa kanssa digitaaliseksi ja tuonne nettipohjaiseksi, niin ne tulee lisääntymään ihan varmasti. Ja kyllä tämä kaiken kaikkiaan niin semmoinen ehkä hukkaprosenttien pienentäminen, kustannusten parempi hallinta niin digitalisaation avulla, niin mä olen ihan varma, että niissä tulee tapahtumaan isoja muutoksia. Jo ihan senkin takia, että regulaatio on paljon, mutta myös senkin takia, että ne on kustannusvaikutuksia aiheuttavia tekijöitä.
Joo, todella pitkä lista erilaisia asioita. Toivottavasti joku kirjoitti ylös, niin tiedetään mitä tehdään. Kivi, jätetään sulle viimeiset sanat, niin miltä se tulevaisuus näyttää? Oikeastaan
tulevaisuuden asiana on varmasti se, että kaikki ne prosessit ja toimenpiteet ja rutiinit, jotka voidaan digitalisoida, ne pitää digitalisoida. Ihmisresurssia, ihmiskäsiä pitää vapauttaa siihen työn ja ihmisten johtamiseen. Ja sen mitä ihmisten välillä voidaan tehdä ja sitten koneet hoitakoon sen automaattisoitavan asian, niin sillä tavalla voidaan vapauttaa sitä kapasiteettia sitten niiden asioiden hoitamiseen, jotka ovat ihmisten johtamisessa tärkeitä.
Kyllä, hyvä, kiitoksia.
Kiitoksia.
Katsotaan, millaisia kysymyksiä on löytynyt chatista.
No niin, täällä on kysymys chatista. Miten sitoutunut rakennusteollisuus on Green Dealiin?
Ja menee vähän turvallisuudesta ohi, mutta totta kai se on ehdottoman tärkeä tulevaisuuden asia ja rakennusteollisuudellahan on iso rooli siinä mielessä, että rakennettu ympäristö ja kiinteistöt ovat elinkaarensa aikana aikamoisia energian käyttäjiä. Siellä pienikin pudotus niin johtaa sitten tässä mielessä hyvään ja totta kai meidän pitää tehdä sellaista tuotantoa, joka on ihmisille, yhteiskunnalle, maailmalle kestävää ja tulevaisuuteen katsovaa.
Kyllä, ympäristöasiat myös työturvallisuuden ohella tärkeitä asioita. No, miten te näette esimerkiksi vuonna 2030, missä mallissa nämä työturvallisuusasiat silloin meillä Suomessa on?
Mä uskon itse kyllä siihen, että ne on aika huomattavasti paremmassa kunnossa kuin on tänään. Me on menty hurjasti eteenpäin tässä viimeinen 15 vuotta. Ja me kyetään meneen seuraava tämmöinen vajaa 10 vuottakin tästä kyllä eteenpäin. Ja tämä digitalisaatio ja just nämä hyödyt kaikesta tästä digitalisaatiosta on sitten vaikka 3D-harjoittelua vaarallisesta asennuksesta tai jostain muusta, niin me pystytään estämään ja sillä paremmalla riskienhallinnalla siitä tiedosta, jota me on saatu jo aikaisemmin sattuneista onnettomuuksista, niin me pystytään, kun tämä on kuitenkin sitä riskienhallintaa sillä työmaalla hyvin pitkälle se työturvallisuuden hallinta. Sä tunnistat ne riskit etukäteen, etkä sen jälkeen, kun on sattunut jotakin. Sä otat opin sen jälkeen, kun on sattunut jotakin.
Entä millaisia työkaluja silloin mahdollisesti on käytössä näiden työturvallisuusasioiden hallinnoimiseen?
Siellä on varmasti, kyllä tämä 3D tulee ainakin siihen koulutukseen ja ehkä se tulee siihen jokin simulointiinkin, koska niitä käytetään jo asuntomyynnissä näitä 3D-laseja tuleville asukkaille osoittamaan sen kalustettavuutta asuntojen osalta, niin kyllä se sinne jalkautuu työmaallakin ihan varmasti jollakin tapaa. Mikä se tapa sitten on, en osaa ihan tarkkaan sanoa, mutta esimerkiksi tällaisessa, että jos, niin kuin tuossa mainitsin jo aiemmin, että me voidaan joku vaarallinen asennustyö, jossa on ne isot riskit, joita ei ole tehty aiemmin. Me voidaan se simuloida siellä ympäristössä, sen 3D-ympäristössä ja tehdä se asennus ensin siellä ja sen jälkeen tehdä se turvallisesti kun se on reenattu tarpeeksi, niin sitten käytännössä.
Hyvä.
Kuulostaa oikein hyvältä. Harjoitellaan ilman riskiä.
Joo, näin nimenomaan.
Ja vaikka meillä nyt on sitten jonkin verran parannettavaa näissä työturvallisuusasioissa Suomessa, mutta silti me ollaan varmastikin aika paljon paremmalla tasolla kuin monessa muussa maassa. Näettekö te, että tästä voisi olla vientituotteeksi maailmalle?
Sen verran pitää rehellisyyden nimessä sanoa, että ei me Suomessa olla juurikaan paremmassa asemassa. Okay. Eräs arvostettu yritysjohtaja sanoi, että kun tämmöinen kysymys tuli, niin kuolleet lasketaan samalla tavalla kuin joka puolella maailmassa, oli muu tilasto mitä tahansa, ja Suomessa kuolee vielä rakennustyömaalla ihmisiä.
Ikävä kyllä.
Että ei olla kyllä, sitä ei olla saavutettu.
Mutta kyllä se nollatapaturma on meidän yhteinen tavoite kuitenkin koko rakennusalalla, että siihen me pyrimme.
Hyvä.
2030 ei kuole yhtään ihmistä.
Hyvä, sovitaan näin.
Se on erittäin hyvä tavoite.
Kyllä. Kiitos Jari ja Kim tosi tärkeästä ja mielenkiintoisesta keskustelusta. I think we'll switch back to English now and it's time to wrap the second part of the day. Pekka, how would you sum up the second part?
Yes, thank you. It has been very interesting. There has been 3 different kind of stories. First of all, quite modern via the industrial story, and as they told, they will expand that in every their own construction sites. And then I think that this Nylund case, as Aki was saying, it was a very innovative, very inspiring story, because there was a data that nobody was using. That is, and now they can make even business with that, and new business models about that. It's actually very exciting. And thirdly, I think that this working safety discussion, this is very important, and I think that we are going to right direction, and with digital solutions and applications, we can make everything much better, much safer working days. So I think that it has been very interesting to see these different angles of how to use data.
Good. I think we're then ready to move to the third part of the day. In the third part, we'll dig a little bit deeper into the data issues and how to utilize data. We have some last-minute changes in the agenda, and instead of Jarkko Moilanen, we will have Mika Huhtamäki here sharing us the secrets of my data. And after that, instead of Tommi Järvinen from Demola, we will have Janne Ugeldal from Platform of Trust talking about data products. But now, welcome Mika Huhtamäki.
Hello everyone, my name is Mika Huhtamäki. I'm the Deputy CEO of Vastuu Group, and happy to be here today to speak about personal data and how that can be applied to gain trust and how that can be used for real-life adaptations. I'll start my story by explaining what the trust is. And I'm taking this example from climbing. This is a real photo from my trips to Dolomites in Italy, where I'm taking one friend of mine from Germany to the top and to the down safely. And trust is a combination of 3 things in climbing. First, you have the equipment, the gear. That is a lot, but that is not enough. You also need to know how to apply and use the gear. And that is already more, but that is even not enough. The actual trust comes from the fact that you can adapt and use the right gear in a right way, in the right environment, and in the right time. And the trust is about combination of different things and applying those in the right way, in the right environment. So when we go to trust in a digital and data business, we can speak about the business model itself, which is the core, meaning the use case, how data is being applied and used. Then legal is also an angle, even in an industrial data and in a personal data. We have to tackle the legal aspects to make it right. Then tech is the tool. It's like the climbing gear that actually implements the business and the legal. But then the last one, it's not the least, the ethical angle. How do we make it so that actually we are ethical with the data, what we use and how we use it? And today I'm going to explain you how we have been doing my data together with the city of Helsinki and how we have been applying these to make real life cases which are trustworthy for the residents, for the people of Helsinki. So first I start from the boring side, which is the GDPR. And I'm showing this because a lot of people are usually saying that yes, this is clear. But it's good to remind that when we are dealing with the personal data, there are 6 basic reasons to access the data. And first, of course, is the consent, which I'm going to cover a little bit in depth after this overview. Then we have contract and legitimate interest of the controller. Contract is the typical one, which is, for example, through the work agreement when you are starting to work for a company. Or legitimate interest in some cases is quite clear, but this is also something that you can withdraw. And then the third category is without the withdrawal rights, legal obligation, public task, and vital interest. The first 2 or the first 3 are the most interesting ones, and the consent is the one that typically people say that they know, but actually when I have been speaking with people, it's clear that they don't know. So how does the data flow goes, and especially with the personal data? We have chains of agreements, and the chain of an agreement means that there is someone who provides you the data, then there is someone who makes an agreement with you and then start to reorganize, combine the data with other attributes, and then distribute it further. And this may mean, for example, in a case of Vastuu Group, that we get some personal data information, then we combine it with Valtticard, we give it to the partners who have access control systems in the construction sites, and then we have actual end customers like the main construction companies. Here, people whose data we are using, they have nothing to say. And actually, if they would like to use the data for other purposes, they cannot, because we have safety regulations and laws which are actually locking the data for that particular use based on the root agreement. Now, the consent, what I was already referring earlier. People say that they know it, but I would say that 9 out of 10 don't know. And the reason is that consent is mistakenly misunderstood as an agreement in many cases. And here, this is the triangle which is good to remember. When we are speaking about consents, it's all about free will and a purpose. So when person gives a consent to someone, they have a right to give, deny, or revoke the consent. It's not about agreement, but it's about free will. So someone who wants to use the data, for example, for employment purposes or some other purposes to make the service better, they have to ask a consent from a person, and a person has to have a free will to say yes or no. And then the data source is giving the data based on the consent. So the free will is the key here, and remembering this triangle, this is the key to open the silos of data, but by respecting the right of a person. So that is a vital concept. If we compare this to the agreement, it means that when you sign an agreement, then you are giving the consent with the agreement, and that is binded together with the agreement. And if you want to deny it, then you have to break the contract, break the agreement. But with a consent, this is way more flexible. And this flexibility helps us to break the silos and enhance the data usage. So how we actually use this in a real life situation. So this is a story about Helsinki and a human-centric approach for families in Helsinki. We are speaking about subsidized daycare fees in Finland. And families are allowed to have subsidized fees if the income level of the parents or a parent is below certain threshold. Well, this process right now is a cumbersome and slow. You have to fill papers, get information from the tax authority, and then provide that to the city of Helsinki. Then they make a decision. There are a lot of people handling the papers, and then at the end, you hopefully get the answer. Together with Helsinki, we wanted to change that in a way that people give a permission to access their income data and let Helsinki do the decision automatically. So here is an overview what happens. City of Helsinki asks a permission from parents that may we use your data, income data, to make a decision about subsidized daycare. If and when the parents give the consent, which is a free will, then Helsinki can access the income information from tax authority, which is on a state level. So this is also showing that even though city is a public actor, so is tax authority, but on a state level. So they need to have a consent to get an access to that information. And by having that information, they can ease the life of parents and families and let them focus on everyday things. Though this is from city level, the same rule can be applied to driver's licenses, on businesses, on other areas. But this shows how simple consent can change the way of developing and designing services. Well, as I was showing earlier, we had a lock with the data. Now, once we have a consent, then we can get the people to the center and then let them decide how the data can be used. And that actually helps us to expand the usage. And it helps us to develop new services and for new purposes, because people can give consents which are for different usage than the initial agreement for the data usage has been. Then on the other side, we are speaking about a lot of data sources. We are speaking about data that is fragmented and scattered all over the places. Some parties have been thinking that, well, by obeying the consent and by providing own permission service, then we are making the life easier. Well, it sounds first like that, but if you think about that, a good service nowadays requires 3, 4, 5 different data sources. And each and every one of those data sources is using their own consent management or permission management. Think about the burden of using those services. So what I'm saying here is that do we need separate permission services per data silo, or actually what we need is permissions as a service, so that then at once person can give a permission for several data sources at once without logging and giving 5 or 6 different permissions separately. So this is the future we believe on. And then one other angle is that some people have been thinking that the My Data is about data storing. No, this is about connecting parties with a permission from a user. So on a gray box, we see that the data transfer happens from point to point, and this kind of personal data access is being controlled by the My Data or permission operator that is acting in between, that knows all the parties, that knows all the permissions and knows the audit trails, but doesn't touch the data. So we are speaking about separation of concerns, which is critical here when we are building trust and we are building independency. And this is following the EU regulations as well. We are speaking about Data Governance Act, which is going to be in power most probably this year. So building trust, how we do it. And together with Helsinki, we have been following these principles. First of all, we need agreed roles. We need services, data providers, we need an operator role, and everyone has to respect the roles. We need a legal framework. We are speaking about rule books or other agreement frameworks which are binding all the parties together and actually telling the rules for different roles in the parties. Then we need some certain technology standards. And here I'm not speaking about data harmonization. That's the platform of trust type of stuff. We are speaking about interoperability and agreeing the permissions and asking the permissions standards. But we need to have technology which is commonly agreed. Then as the last one, I want to emphasize that some people say that the industrial data versus personal data, that these are not related. Well, I'm taking Vastuu Group as an example. We have 500,000 people in our databases. We are speaking about industrial data for construction, but most of our data is about people. And what I'm saying here is that it's better to prepare for the future so that we are ready to handle the personal data, because these areas are overlapping. And it's way more expensive and harder to build these kind of trust elements and data sharing elements afterwards than at the same time when you are building your industrial data solutions. Then the last and the most vital part, which is the collaboration in ecosystems. To make this happen, this is not a one-man show. We are speaking about environment where we, together with all the parties, specify certain rules, certain technology standards, certain ways of dealing with the data. We have been founding member of My Data Global, which is setting up a standard for the My Data operators and following the Data Governance Act in the Europe, which is providing a human-centric approach for data handling. International data spaces is coming from EU as well, which is giving regulations for certain areas of data. And for example, in the EDSI, I'm working together with the French people to figure out that what are the rules for the skills area, which is vital, for example, in the construction, where we need to know that how skilled the people are and what kind of certifications they have. Then we have the industrial Gaia X. With the Gaia X, we have been speaking from the industrial data angle and how these will overlap. Open Agile Smart Cities is an obvious angle where we have been specifying that how data flows can happen inside cities or in between the cities. Then taking a more local approach, which is still connected to the international collaboration. Sitra obviously has been pushing heavily forward these rule books and agreements for these big data networks. KiraHub obviously has been pushing forward the activities related to the platform of trust. And then Findi, which is an initiative and a cooperation nowadays where we are setting up a new next generation data and trusted data network. And Findi hopefully is going to be the foundation of the next generation distributed identity platform in Finland. I'm speaking about SSI type of identities. So this shows that there are a lot of stuff going on and which are related, and industrial data is related to personal data and activities which are related to the trust as well, and shows that the ecosystem is the party that actually builds this, and the collaboration is a vital part of this. So call for action, people first. It's all about being proactive and thinking from human-centric angles and focusing on simple use cases, like with Helsinki, the subsidized daycare, or with them we have been also providing driver's license information for Stara. Then encourage and invite all relevant stakeholders, because in these cases we have a lot of stakeholders. And they have to conceptualize and collaborate together to make it happen. And then evaluate these cases through the human-centric use case, legal, tech, and ethical angles. Test and adjust with real people, because the people are in the center. Let them give the feedback. And follow the regulation. DGA is giving us opportunities, but also limitations in the future, so grab on early. Thank you. It was a pleasure. You can read more about MyDataShare from www.mydatashare.com. And you are welcome to the Smart City event at Tampere at 14th and 15th of June 2022. That was the My Data part, and I'm happy to introduce the next speaker, Janne Uggedal, product owner from Platform of Trust. Welcome, Janne. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Janne. I'm here to talk about the data value chain and why it matters now more than ever. So, as you know, data is the most valuable asset in growth-oriented companies, but also data is like any other commodity, and it requires quite a bit of refining to make it usable by business. So, in a technical sense, the source data is not a problem anymore. We've been building data warehouses and data lakes for tens of years for now. So technically, it's not an issue to collect data. But here's where it gets interesting. So on the top left, you can see that we create and collect data from many different sources. And typically nowadays, we have so many IoT sensors around. All the buildings have been equipped with IoT sensors that the amount of data is not the issue anymore. It's quite the contrary, that we have too much data and we actually don't know what to do with it. So now, following the assembly line, we have the processing part. So we need to harmonize the data and make it reusable. You could even think about this as a typical mining of natural resources. It's very little use to mine the minerals and just ship the minerals to your customer. You need to refine it and you need to process it into something that adds value to the rare minerals. So here in the middle part, we can see that the source data becomes a data product when it's packaged in a flat pack way, like Antti mentioned before. But in this picture, we have these cubes of data, and it says data product there. So then we package it to a form that you can ship to your customers, and you can get more value out of it. And on the bottom right, it says consumption, value, co-creation. So you can also slap on different properties on the data product. You might have different kind of product properties there. And so what's next then? Let's dig into that a bit deeper. So what does a data product consist of? So data products are like any other products. They fill a specific business purpose or reason. You aren't creating products just for the fun of it, just because you have the data somewhere. You're creating it to solve a business problem, a customer problem. Data products are also machine readable to enable efficient use and reuse. Sorry. So it doesn't make much sense if the data products aren't machine readable and couldn't be read, from computer to computer. That's quite a tight promise here. So then also data products have features just like any other products. They have features like pricing, a name, and a value proposition. They might solve some kind of customer pain, or they might even create some kind of cost saving of such. And then, of course, as any products, they have terms and conditions, how you can use them. And then data products, they have good enough quality data to create them. And by good enough, I mean the quality has to be in a way that it solves a business problem. And let's actually stop there for a moment. Typically, we talk about source data, we talk about percentages or null values or something about that. But if you think more about this, it doesn't really matter, because data is good enough when you can use it to solve a business problem. All right. And then data products can be published as internal or for the partner ecosystem or publicly available, just like depending on your business goals. Just like any other product, you could imagine shipping it on a marketplace, available for anyone, or you could just publish it for selected partners, then you have it in the partner ecosystem. Or you could have even an internal data product, so they can only be consumed inside your organization. So let's take a practical example. Weather information. First, we would collect data from various different data points, and the data is in different formats and in different schemas. So it's kind of like gathering apples and oranges in the same basket. what do we do next? We process the data, we make it interoperable and harmonized. And again, it says high quality enough data. It depends on the business case again. And then the harmonized data is stored in an internal data lake or a data warehouse. And then you productize the data. And for example, in the weather information, you could do a product which is 7 days weather forecast in any city you pick. And then you provide your customers API access to it. So quite simple way of refining the source data into something easily consumable. And then you can share the data product in your data ecosystem or your data platform or a marketplace. So make it available to your customers so someone can find it. And a good thing to point out here, you would also need a go-to-market strategy and kind of a product launch plan, because just like any other product, people don't or customers don't find it if you just push it out somewhere and tell nobody about it. Then the next step is that you could actually create a service out of it. So you could, for this weather information application, you could send push notifications to your customers that remember to take your umbrella with you tomorrow. So customers don't have to subscribe or consume anything. You just create a monthly service out of it. For example, you want to notify them when it's going to rain. So take your umbrella with you today. And the key takeaway of all of this is, if you don't remember anything, please remember this, that data products should be treated with a product mindset. You need sales, you need marketing, you need support, you need all the internal stakeholders involved in publishing your data product, because it's just like any other product in your company. You need all the stakeholders to be informed of the product launch. And here is an example of a data product, and Tommi promised to present this, but due to COVID, I'm now stepping in for Tommi. And this is the Demola data product, which is presenting global access to global insights. And this is, by the way, available on our marketplace already. This data product gathers insights from Generation Z members from all over the globe. So with this insights and megatrend analysis, we could do these co-creation workshops together to find out what the future looks like for your business. And here is an example. Demola has over 3,800 university students from 79 different countries where this data is collected from. So for example, if you want to know what 20 to 25-year-old Chinese university students think about a certain phenomena, for example, green energy or something, you could actually dig through the data from this. And what makes it really interesting is that these signals, they will challenge your current assumptions and mental models, meaning that if you search through this example, that green energy and Chinese university students, you could actually see the signals next to this one. So combining these insights make you understand the future much better. And this is how the data product looks like. Demola has many dozens of data points here, and these trend signals of these mega trends is something we have already published on our marketplace here. And if you want to see how it looks like, you can browse right away through our marketplace, Authentic Gen Insights, and you can see the insights for free. Thank you.
Thank you, Janne, for explaining us data value chains and data products. We have some questions for you here. Some say data is the new oil. What is your view of that idea?
Good question. I think everyone has heard that analogy, but I kind of I'd like to disagree a bit. It has this a bit of worn metaphor thing on running on it, and I think data is on the contrary. It's not the new oil, because you can build on data and you can consume it as much as you want, and it grows in value. It's not like oil, which we are running scarce on as a resource. So I would disagree heavily on that one.
Okay. In his opening, Lasse said that you build applications on data. What does that mean to you?
That's a good question. I think traditionally we've been building applications like a single company is the order of the application, and then we have a supplier, which is the other one who supplies the application. But I think Lasse meant that if we create a ecosystem model where we have a trusted way of making data available for everyone in the ecosystem, just like the ESG ecosystem, we can solve so many or quite complex challenges by building applications on top of that data, where one company and one supplier couldn't even imagine. So I think we're touching something really, really important here.
Okay, thank you, Janne. And now it's time to have Antti back, and he will introduce us the new way of working.
All right. So we talked about data and oil, and I actually do think data is becoming something. It's more like a water. There's a lot of water in the world, but there's not that many products from the water which can be consumed. What I present today, we've been discussing a lot about the ecosystems, what kind of problems you could solve with that. And I'm going to present and actually launch a couple of methods how we could actually make it happen. So I'm presenting something called Train. But let's recap a little bit from today's problems what we are having in a built environment. We discussed about low productivity, data disappearing between different phases from construction to using, high CO2 footprint, manual work, and the data in different silos. So these were the problems what we discussed earlier today. And with you as an owner, as a regulator, because you own our company, we are owned by the industry, we are about to fill the data gaps using the same data products, but different rules living with the life cycle. And how it's really done. If you think about a little bit more detail about the flow or life cycle of the built environments, it starts from the city vision, goes to urban planning, to more detailed planning, construction, handing it over to operations and maintenance, and actually thinking about the built environment as a service platform, and in the end, recycling things. So how this can be really done? We made a ready tool set for you. We have two concepts. We have trains and we have phenomena schools. So let's look at those first. What is a train really, and why we talk about that? We think that it's really a method for starting to solve such a problem or phenomenon that no one can solve alone. So this is the train for. So train is really a running an ecosystem. And train takes passengers, stakeholders aboard. When the train reaches the end station, there exists a functioning ecosystem that actually solves the problem. And what comes after that is ongoing traffic. And the ongoing traffic is the result where the problem is solved by a service for the larger audience. So that is a train. It takes 2 to tango, but 7 for an ecosystem. And the hardest part in the ecosystem thinking and actual way of working is that normal way in businesses is that we find one problem and one solution, and then we are good to go. But in ecosystems, when we find one problem, we actually need 7 solutions. And that's the hard part, because we can't keep on working just with the one solution or one benefit, but we need to build benefits for all the parties in the ecosystem, which are like data service providers, which are often application companies. We have application providers, which can be the same or different than the data service providers. We have service providers, for instance, cleaning company for real estates. And then we have somebody who has got the data rights. And the data rights holder is very often the different party than, for instance, a data service provider. Then we need somebody to drive the ecosystem. It can be you, it can be us. We have the value implementators who actually get the value from the ecosystem problem solving. And then we have the knowledge providers. Knowledge provider can be, for instance, a consultant or a director who has been working in the industry for 20 years, or it can be a university. So this is what we call the Win7 approach. Phenomena schools. So we are starting in March, and we have one school in a month trying to open different phenomena. And we are about to start with the ESG. So why scope 3 matters the most? 5.5 times more than the scope 1 and 2 totally. So these kind of topics we are running starting from March. Please join. Then we go for the actual platform or the product. So basically we have tools which can define that what kind of business problems can be solved by which data. We have a data product interoperability machine, which is for technology to harmonize the data. We are growing a built environment data product catalog to keep your speed up. We are creating ecosystem ERP for closed B2B ecosystem. And why that's important? It's important because the ecosystems needs to be controlled in a safe way. And then we have a marketplace for open ecosystem data product distribution. So let's see how they look. Let's pick an example. This is the data value stream in a little bit different terms. Phenomena, ecosystem, what are the problems in an ecosystem? Data product in business-wise, technical data product, closed ecosystem with secure sharing, and if desired, open ecosystem and a marketplace. So we launched today ESG Train. It is an ecosystem, and how it looks like. In our system, you can see that there is an ecosystem called ESG, defining what it is. And then there are contracts. Okay, so all the businesses work with contracts between 2 legal entities. So even in an ecosystem, there is a need to define the legal contract. There's always a buyer and there is a seller. In an ecosystem, there's no necessarily always money exchange between the parties, but the contracts need to be made in this way, buyer and seller. So this is how we define ecosystem. So the problems, how we define the problems. This is 2 examples of ESG problems. So we have one data product, real estate carbon footprint, and we have CO2 emissions from construction materials. 2 data products, okay? So let's see how they flow. And now, when we have defined the business requirements, we need to check how they can be seen. Okay, so they can be seen like from our dashboard. You see those 2 data products, what I mentioned. And in the earlier presentation, there was a mention about this Gen Z insight from the demo. So for instance, these are the data products which can be seen from the dashboard. And when we define the business, it's really important to define the quality. So what is the quality of the data which is enough to solve the business problem? Okay. And permissions. For instance, we need to define what kind of rights are there for personal data, what kind of audits are there, what kind of conditions, what kind of license scope is existing. So then it goes to technology, which is important as well. And indeed, technology, we have the tools as well. For instance, you see now an example from the energy consumption measurement. This is getting a lot of details about the schemas, context, and so forth. Then we have the mapper, because when we have the data product, which is actually on the left, and we have the data source on the right, we need to harmonize the data to one common format aligned with the data product definition, and to make the data flow from the systems to be harmonized at the same time. And on the right-hand side, there's of course many systems, not only one, because very often when filling the built environment data gaps, the data is actually coming from the multiple systems. But right, data product, left, data product, right, the data source. All right, and this is how it really looks. Because the data product needs to be machine readable, okay? And it's not enough that it's a document somewhere. It needs to be machine readable and it needs to be on API. Then a closed ecosystem for secure sharing with known partners. It's really important that we do know which data to share and which data not to share. Because some of the data is really linked to the NDAs and the businesses' competitive edges. But so it's important to know which one it is, sharing or not to sharing. And how it looks like, again, in our system, there is a contract name, there's seller and buyer, remember, we were there. And now you can see what kind of data contracts or data products actually exists in the system. So the contract with a certain terms can have a multiple data products. So it meaning that, for instance, if you and your partner are working together, you can define that now these 20 data products are available in time of construction. Okay. Then there can be new terms for the time for maintenance. Okay. When there is a new contract with the maintenance company, and then you define new terms for that time. So here an example of the data products, how they can be seen via the price list in our system. And price, yes, there can be a rate or it can be zero. But anyway, there is a price list. So these were the available data products. Are they all in the marketplace? No, they are not. Because you need to decide if you have a data product which you want to be able to be consumed by individuals or organizations, any organization, or the organizations which you choose. All right? So this is marketplace. Marketplace for data. Marketplace for data products. And if we are looking from our marketplace, ESG, yes, there is one product, not two. ESG CO2 consumption, and this is how it looks like. So this is the definition, a short definition of the data product. And then it can be ordered. How it can be ordered? It looks like basically a regular shopping cart, but in practice, it will be consumed via API. And you will get the API key via electronic form. So this was the whole flow of one data product, right? Based on our ongoing doctoral research, types of the data in existing marketplaces. So roughly 80% of the data are just data sets. So data as a water. 19% are roughly data products and 1% are data which is servitized. And we do believe that actually growing the number of the data products which actually help us to solve the collective action problems of the market. So these were the products what we launched. Trains, Fenama schools, data products, tools to solve the business problems, data products technologically, growing built environment data product catalog, ecosystem ERP to manage closed ecosystem in a secure way, marketplace for distributing the data for broader audience. It's 2022, so why is your data not interoperable? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antti. Why don't you join us here on stage?
Thank you very much.
So, you're talking about horizontal flows. How much time should we spend with people who just don't get it, who are still in their silos? Should we just ignore them or try to bring them along?
It's a really good question. And I would like to remind everybody that what do you think about the buying food from the internet? Okay. I think nobody really today says that buying a food from the internet is like a small thing. But when we actually started creating a couple of the first food e-commerce places in Finland, we were actually laughed at a little bit. Nobody's laughing any longer. So, like in any change, it's not really about the companies, but it's recognizing people who are having the drive and the will and the courage to fail. Because we basically have two types of people who want to be safe, to do the things, the kind of the main thing to existing, and then we have the adventurers. And I think we need adventurers at this time to start. It's going to grow, but it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one really smart person, actually, Jussi Aho, who is the CEO of Fira, once said that there are two types of people. So there are people who believe because they see, and there are people who believe when they see. And the problem, we are faced in a dilemma where there are people who believe because they see are too few. So I think we shouldn't give up on it. We should continue of talking, having discussions, let's say listen also to the arguments why people don't think that maybe this thing is good right now. I think we can learn a lot from having that discussion, and I think one of the most important things is that we should invest also in things that are like how would you say, the entire industry or cross-industry linking, like horizontal. I don't see that much investment. There should be more investment in those kind of things, so that we could actually get the examples that will then get everybody on board. One interesting thing is that the consumer business, if you look at platform solutions there, I think nobody really nowadays are saying that, hey, these are weird or like you can order any restaurant, you can order food home. You don't have to go one restaurant, one application, second restaurant, second application, and so forth. And many other things. The thing is that in the business-to-business community, we haven't still been able to adopt this kind of same philosophy. But we shouldn't give up. It's coming. In a few years' time, we should laugh at things we are talking about here this morning because they were so trivial. They are sort of self-evident. And so I think we should keep on pushing. Yeah. And listening also.
Yeah, but I have to say, it's very often we get the idea that television are saying that the one kind of the persons are the right kind. Yeah. It's not true. We need both. We need the people who need stability. They want to actually see things being proved. And then we need somebody who wants to find the America.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're the guys who want to find America.
Yeah.
Good. Now that you've seen all the presentations, how would you sum up the day?
There's one thing I would like to discuss, and it's about the Uber strike. You know, I was in Web Summit in Lisbon, which is basically for tech geeks, like 50,000 people. And there was an Uber strike at that time. Why it was there? It's because the drivers believe that there is actually more influential to the strike working in tech than doing it for a government. Okay, and this is actually industrial revolution. What we are meeting, it's a new industrial revolution where the regulation is actually lagging behind a little bit, and it's not. There is actually threats on these on this platform area. So it's really important that, for instance, with us, that for instance our ownership, we have the own regulator because we are owned by the industry, and I see that as a really important thing if we want to get this thing done to help to make the Finnish built environment better.
Yeah. I think also a little bit picking up what Antti just said, but looking at it from a different angle, I still think that we need to go a little bit back to basics. All the things that we are talking about, like data products and all the stuff like this, still, when we are all humans, it comes back to the matter of trust. So I think that there's a lot of things that we need to figure out how to sort of automate the trust, make the trust more visible, more reliable, if you will, to be able to sort of not have the most hard way ahead. We can smooth out a lot of bumps if we are able to figure out those small, let's say, trust gaps that are available at the moment. Same thing with data gaps. We have data gaps and we have trust gaps. But I think the most important thing is that we should speak out more when we have cases that really prove and have a good impact. And we should not be afraid to try. Let's take the climate change just for an example. It's clear that we have to try all the old things and all the new things to get it done. But we are sure we have to get new things to really hit the mark. Fortunately nowadays, compared to let's say 3 or 4 years ago, there was a lot of talk about like green values and the green transfer and all this. There was not much action. Today, fortunately, there's a lot of action. People are looking for actually concrete stuff to do the things and to actually measure and constantly learn from the data how to improve. This is what we should do more. And we should continue the discussion. Last but not least, it's all about having a constant dialogue, learning from each other, being courageous. So what if something doesn't go exactly according to plan? We should still go forward because that's the only way we can make the change.
And I need to go back for this term of saying giving the rights back to the people when we are talking about personal data.
Yeah.
And it's actually saying with the industrial data, we need to be very careful that who has got the rights, and it's not like giving away something.
No.
And managing that in a proper way is really the term. Yeah. And I would say that it's always like in a journeys, in a voyages, it's like building a vision and then just starting. Remember what Anna said from the KONE. They just kind of started the journey and started learning. And it's like learning together. So we are not saying that everything is ready and we know how to do everything. But we are saying that we know some stuff, join us and let's start learning.
Yeah. That's actually a very interesting point because we were discussing in the breakout room that now when this, let's say, security on work sites, if we get that really working, so we have like 30 companies pushing the data, we have a model that we can apply to, for instance, quality. So quality has been an issue for a long time in the construction industry. What could we learn in the same way about quality? Or could we learn how to not have the biggest pitfalls in big projects, like huge projects like building, for instance, a hospital? Could we learn from each hospital project to another? But how can we respect the data that really is owned by somebody, shared in a proper way, with consent and all this? So I think there are endless possibilities. It's just that before we see that it really works, it's so difficult to believe that it will really work. So we gotta, as I said, we gotta keep on pushing. Very interesting, I have to say. It's been an interesting morning.
Yes, indeed.
And not about us, actually. So what we really need to focus on, of course, we need the tools and so forth, but there needs to be a real problems to be solved, which actually has got the value in this time.
Yeah.
So finding the stuff which is a problem and there's a right timing, I think that's the thing.
Yes.
Because it's about you.
Yeah, that's true. Great.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of final words for our audience? What would you like to say?
Personally, I would like to thank everybody. I would like to thank you for really brilliant hosting. Everybody who has listened to us. We have had a lot of talk, a lot of new stuff, but I'm really happy that so many were joining our event. And we're going to keep on doing new events. Like Antti said, we have Phenomena schools and everything coming up. So we are excited. We are really full of energy. This is going to be a fantastic journey. But thanks to everybody listening up.
I would say this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to have a conversation like you never had before, contact us and we're going to have it.
Yes. That's a good way to finish.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I think we'll have the materials delivered or link to the materials later to the audience.
Yes.
Yes. And the recording as well. So if someone's interested to watch it later, you can do so. But I guess now it's time to say goodbye.
Yes. And thanks for all the speakers.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. Kiitos.
Bye-bye.
Kiitos.
Bye-bye.
Bye.